everybody, Amer here again with another Mission Impossible episode review. This time I'm going to be reviewing Season 1, Episode 25, which is called Shock. So, we start out with Dan getting his instructions from a pawnbroker's storage room, having to go through a few elaborate steps to load his tape for some reason. I don't know why they didn't make this a little bit easier for him, but whatever. The mission is to neutralize the plan of an enemy agent named Peter Curie, who has kidnapped American negotiator Carl Wilson and replaced him with an imposter named Joseph Gort in order to sabotage an important political deal. You might recognize Curie as Sorrel Book, Boss Hogg from the Dukes of Hazzard, for people who remember that show. So the team is the usual, including Briggs and Ira Drake, a neuropsychologist. Again, I don't know why there's a lot of doctors named Ira. First we had Dr. Ira Green, now we have Ira Drake. Because of the issues related to Stephen Hill's issues, which we talked about a couple of episodes ago, Briggs is fitted with a mask to become Joseph Gort, who is playing Carl Wilson, interestingly enough. So we cut to Curie and Gort, and they're talking, and they're doing kind of an as you know of their plan, just to kind of clue us in on, what they're doing. Cinnamon shows up as Patricia, Carl Wilson's niece, with driver Willie bringing in a very, very large trunk. Gort is a bit worried, and he expresses this to Curie, about keeping up his role, because he doesn't actually, obviously Patricia's not really his niece. But he performs his part admirably. Cinnamon wants to talk to her uncle privately, with Curie going into another room and listening using a bug. And as he does so, Willie opens the trunk to reveal Dan as Gort. Willie knocks out Gort, Dan takes his place, and into the trunk Gort goes. Dan manages to get Gort's tie on, books his niece into a nice hotel, but Gort's cigarette holder goes unnoticed under a chair. Gort lighting up a cigarette without it does not go unnoticed by Curie. Dan later covers for that by telling him that Gort used his holder, but Wilson did not, which is why he decided not to use the holder with his niece around. Nice cover. Gort is taken to the abandoned building where the IMF has set up shop, and he's given shock treatment to give him a low dose of amnesia. Gort wakes up disoriented, as expected, and is taken to see Dr. Rollin, who refers to him as an accountant named Yorgi Kroll. And he tells him, reminds him that he's been in a mental hospital for 5 months. Gort protests, of course, saying this is absolute nonsense, and Rollin told him that they've heard his whole story many times about this guy called Gort, who's a fabulous secret agent. And Rollin says that the last story that he was told was involved kidnapping a guy named Carl Wilson and taking his place. And Rollin says, "Tell me more about this fantasy." Gort is shocked to hear that he's given up all that information. When Rollin tries to straighten him out and continue the story to try and, prove his sanity or whatever, Gort gets a bit violent and has to be subdued by Barney, and he's subjected to further disorientation by the IMF in his room. Two curious kids come by and they trip the building's alarm, forcing Willie to pretend to be a vagrant who's in the building for shelter. Fortunately for the IMF, the innocent kids buy the story. Kroll is taken for another shock session and asked to talk to Rollin, who asks about the reception that is planned. But Gort does not give up any information about it. Dan, as Gort, gets a visit from a guy named Jonathan Davis, who is part of the American trade apparatus. Davis says he hopes the two can lay the groundwork for a presidential visit to this country. In preparation for the evening's reception, Dan invites Cinnamon in code, which signals that their plan is going down tonight and they have to be ready. Curie gives Dan a pistol, saying that his first target is Davis and then Wilson. Cinnamon arrives at the reception with Rollin as her fiancé and talks to Dan as Gort, as Curie has the real Carl Wilson brought into the study and slumped in at his desk. Davis gets an alerting call from Willie, and Rollin and David switch jackets. Rollin writes the word study on a cigarette, which he flicks outside to Willie. Barney emerges from the car. They take Gort into the study to replace Wilson. Curie tells Dan that it's time. Wilson tells Davis he knows the whole thing that they're trying to do is a complete farce and shoots him and then dashes for the study. Dan fires a shot, puts the gun in Gort's hand, and moves away to remove his mask. He returns to the room to expose Kiri's deception, revealing that the dead man is not Wilson, but actually Gort, and Kiri is put under arrest. Mission accomplished. I'm going to give this episode a grade of a B minus. What I liked about it, one good thing was definitely the work of James Daly, who plays three roles. He essentially plays the role of Dan Briggs, who's playing the role of Joseph Gort, who's playing the role of Carl Wilson. So he does a lot of work in this episode and basically drives the episode forward. You could say that he carries the episode single-handedly in a way, and does it pretty well. Sometimes it's a very good thing when the guest star, the main focus of the story, gets more screen time than the main cast. Operation Rogosh, we saw earlier in the season, is another good example of that, and I think that it also works pretty well here. There's also a very, very neat scene where they switch Dan Briggs for Gort. At the beginning, when Willie swaps him out in between the trunks, and Cinnamon and Gort are having a conversation. And while they're doing the switcheroo, they just continue the conversation as if nothing has happened, right? With Gort getting knocked out and Dan just kind of picking it up where they left off. I thought that was really, really neat. Also, when they pull the switcheroo near the end, replacing the real Carl Wilson with Gort is also very, very well done. I really like those scenes. What's not so good, I think we can put it in the bad category, not just not so good. This episode is a very, very slow mover at times. There are those high points, but other times it really, really, really plods. There's a lot of time spent on preparing Dan's mask and turning him into Gort/Wilson. The team preparing the big store where they're going to have the psychiatric facility in which they're going to put Gort. That takes a good 4 television minutes. And that's just pure padding. Also, a lot of the TV time taken up inside the big store where they show them trying to, disorient Gort further and things like that. There's quite a bit of padding there. So that I didn't like. I wish the episode had moved a little bit faster. But it's not terrible. It's a pretty decent episode. I'll stick by my grade of a B minus. Thank you again for watching. Please like this video. Please subscribe to my channel. I'm looking to get to 100 subscribers so that I can get a custom URL and get some more promotion for these videos so that others can enjoy it. I hope you are enjoying what I'm doing. Please leave comments, and I'll see you next time.